Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to wait for people to come here and babble on a little bit. I just wanted to make a quick live video tonight to explain a bit why I chose to bring the Church of Lucifer back. It's largely in part to Patrick Gaffiero, who is really knowledgeable when it comes to Luciferianism. I was actually surprised. Hey Stephen, hey Heather. I was actually surprised that anybody still knew what Luciferian thought actually was. So it was largely due to actually meeting another person who understands what Luciferianism is. I will explain a little bit about my original feelings on everything. Hello, Rebecca. My original feelings on everything and why I was so adamant that I wasn't going to bring the Church of Lucifer back, and why I am now. About, I'd say, 10 years ago, close to 10 years ago, when the Church of Lucifer dissolved, it was a decision largely in part because I didn't want to see it continue to dissolve and degrade into what it was. Hello, Michael. Basically, my wife at the time, I had sort of passed the reins to her, but she was more interested in having fun. Hey, Valentia. She was more interested in having fun and playing games and things, and it greatly suffered because of it. I didn't want to see what was my mentor in the occult's organization, then mine, after he passed on. I didn't want to see it continue to degrade the way it was. We had 400 or 500 applications just sitting in email doing absolutely nothing. And the reason I had stepped down from being what's considered the high priest and moved into a tribunal role was because I had given up most of my youth and the entirety of my 20s to run the Church of Lucifer and to propagate Luciferianism to the world, basically. Now, however, I have... well, let me explain a little bit. I started talking to Patrick a while back. I was really interested in the things he was posting because a lot of it was very much so Luciferianism. And so I sort of secretly followed him, reading what he was writing. And, he had messaged not too long ago, actually a very short time ago, about a week ago, and was like, we just got to talking, and he was like, have you ever thought of bringing the Church of Lucifer back? And at the time, I was still, when the Church of Lucifer dissolved, it was devastating to me. It was something that somebody I love left to me. And so, to see it degrade and then to inevitably, much like a dog who's ill, I had to put it down. It was very heartbreaking for me. It was something that I dedicated my entire life to. It's something that I gave up from age 16 to almost age 30 to running, to propagating traditional, true Luciferianism. And so it was something that once it dissolved, it was very devastating, and I pretty much gave up groups and doing anything with groups, running groups, being a part of groups and all of that. Hey, Richard. And so when Patrick had brought it up, my initial instinct was, I started to think for a minute, no, I don't know if I want to do this. But then something clicked, something sort of hit the cerebral cortex, and it was just like the synapses started firing. And I was like, I haven't thought about it in a while, but it is something that I'd like to do. And I couldn't think of anybody to be there by my side and to be, an equal in bringing this back than Patrick. I could think of nobody else. And so I was like, yeah, we can do it. We can do this. Let's do this. And it was like, even tonight, me and him were talking about something, and then we had went silent for a little while. And then I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of something. Something that I think, I'm not going to mention it because it's a bit private in the occult. Hey, Praven. Hey, Keith. It's a little bit more of a secret project that we're going to be working on. But it was something I was thinking about, and next thing I know, he messages me on here out of the blue, and he's like, we should do this. And it was like, wow, this guy is on the same exact frequency I am. It's incredible. So it was something that when it came to bringing the Church of Lucifer back, I couldn't think of anybody better to help and to be by my side and to fully assist in this and to be my equal in it than Patrick. No one else that I have ever met. Most of the people that, when the Church of Lucifer had dissolved, either stayed in contact with me and sort of, kept in the shadows, so to speak, kept out of the limelight, or they completely left Luciferianism and either went to another sect or another branch of the occult because they saw what Luciferianism denigrated into. They saw it sort of become a free-for-all. It sort of became this, nobody knew what the hell they were talking about, but everybody was one. And it was really, really sad, and a lot of people left Luciferianism. A lot of high-ranking Luciferians left Luciferianism because of it. So, knowing that we're bringing the Church of Lucifer back is something that truly, truly makes me excited, because I really want to set all the wrongs that people have put out there in regards to Luciferianism. I really want to bring their wrongs to light and show people the truth. I want to propagate true Luciferianism again to the masses, and I want to help people. That's what basically Luciferianism and all spiritual organizations should be. Their primary goal is to help people, to elevate people. And that's what I really hope that we can do here with the Church of Lucifer coming back. When I say it's coming back, I don't mean it's just coming back as in a rehash of the original. This is going to be the Church of Lucifer on steroids. This is going to be Church of Lucifer that's teaching traditional Luciferianism, but it's going to have more input from two individuals and eventually a third individual to fill out the tribunal. But this is going to have a lot more combined effort. The original Church of Lucifer, I had a whole lot of me. I had written a whole lot of documents and articles, and I wrote them when I was a teenager, so a lot of them were very angsty teenager articles. I've already apologized for several of them because I realized that some of it was speaking out of false ego, some of it was very unnecessarily gruff towards others. I have friends of all different religions currently, and as long as they don't preach to me, I have no problems with them. But back then I was much, much, much different. Back then I was very much so an isolationist in that I only dealt with people who were in the occult on the left-hand path predominantly. So this is going to be the Church of Lucifer that we are going to be bringing into the future. This isn't going to be the Church of Lucifer that is mired and stuck in the past. So me and Patrick are hard at work on so many different things to bring this to fruition that I can't even begin to explain how excited we both are. In just the last week alone, I've released so many articles. Patrick has done so much work and has released articles. We've done so many different things to see the church, kind of get back out there into the populace so people know that we will soon be back in full function. And as soon as we are in full function, it's going to be a beautiful thing. We have a completed standardized curriculum from somebody who comes into the organization and knows absolutely nothing, but they're they've read the public documents and they agree with it, and they want to peruse further, all the way up through priesthood, the highest degree in the Church of Lucifer. I've done away with the high priest title because I believe all priests should be on equal ground within Luciferianism. We should all share, the same everything. There should be no one that is seen as a higher priest than the other. However, there are titles, not titles per se, but positions within the church, such as the Tribunal, which is primarily going to be a position of running things, of seeing operations, seeing that people are learning, seeing that people are growing, checking application statuses, things like that. But one priest is going to be as revered as the next priest, and so I've done away with the high priest title because I find it a bit pretentious, actually. And I want to put us all on equal grounds. I want us all to be a part of the Church of Lucifer instead of separate segments. I want us each to be an individual puzzle piece that makes the greater portrait. And so that's where I'm at this juncture. Is I'm writing a lot of public documents. I've written the standardized structure for it. I've written several other smaller, minor documents, but right now my focus is getting the public documents out into the hands of the masses. And Patrick's been helping a great deal with that. He has been incredible already, and we have so much more to come that, it's just a matter of time before people are whispering the Church of Lucifer on their tongues once again. We are, just so people know, we are not affiliated with any other organization, period. The only organization I will say that we are affiliated with, friendly with, and I am proud to be a member of, Patrick is proud to be a member of, is the Ordo Dracul. Everywhere else, no other Luciferian organization or order has anything whatsoever to do with us. The Ordo Dracul is it. That's it. That's the only affiliation that we have. The Church of Lucifer itself is autonomous in that it stands alone. I don't care how popular someone's organization is. If it's not true Luciferianism, it's shit. If it's not true Luciferianism, a duck could be called an alligator, but it doesn't make it have snapping jaws. And the goal right now when we bring the Church of Lucifer back is to bring the flaming sword of Lucifer to everyone. Whether it consumes them or whether it enlightens them is up to them. And that's pretty much where we're at this juncture. We're going to be releasing a lot of stuff, a lot of information. I am pretty much in a constant state of writing. My brain is actually 24 hours a day thinking of new articles, new things that I believe the public should know about the Church of Lucifer and Luciferianism. And so it's coming. A lot of information is coming. One thing I did want to touch on is that I see, especially in the left-hand path, everyone is focused on magic. Few are focused on the path itself. And this is where Luciferianism differs from a lot of these groups and a lot of these magic hanger-ons, should I say, is that Luciferianism and its magic are intertwined. There is no studying magic without being on the path of Luciferianism. The path empowers the magic that you're doing. The two are not separate. They are mutually exclusive. And so 99% of my public documents are going to adamantly deal with the philosophy, the spiritual practices, and things like that regarding Luciferianism, with very little magic, because if an individual is interested in the Church of Lucifer, magic should not be the reason they're interested. They can go be a Wiccan if they want to learn magic. They can go be anybody on the left-hand path that just studies magic and doesn't actually live the path. They can go do that. But if they want to learn Luciferianism and then learn Luciferian magic after they've applied Luciferianism to their life, then we're more than happy to accept them. We're an organization, and we've always been an organization. Hey, Benjamin, we've always been an organization that doesn't sell our spirituality. No amount of gold can buy you knowledge. No amount of gold can get you a higher degree or rank. No amount of ass kissing, no amount of buddy can get you to where you want to be. Only you can do that. And that's one of the big differences between the Church of Lucifer and so many other organizations that's out there. Hey, Benjamin. Yep, exactly, brother. But that's one of the big differences. We don't sell ourselves on our magic. We sell ourselves on being Luciferians. If all you want is magic, like I said, there's tons of other people out there that are dabbling, that have their toes wet in the water, so to speak. We jump head first. We are more geared towards attuning you with the energies of our pantheon, attuning you with the philosophy, bringing the spirituality into your life. Magic is not a secondary practice. Don't get me wrong, it's directly intertwined with everything else, but everything else empowers the magic that comes. And so, in my opinion, the first initial degrees of Luciferianism have almost no magic whatsoever. It's all about teaching what Luciferianism is and how to apply it to your daily life. Now, there's a whole lot of hubbub out there, a whole lot of drama regarding other organizations that use the term Luciferian, and I'm going to explain one of the reasons why I've been so depressed for almost the last decade. In the last decade, I've watched Luciferianism, like I said earlier, denigrate to whatever the hell somebody wants it to be. They make this up as they go along, and they hope that people don't find out the truth. People wouldn't even today know what Luciferianism was, the word itself, if it wasn't for the Church of Lucifer. At the time when the Church of Lucifer had its website online, when it had first came into being, the only other website that was online that was left-hand path was the Temple of Set website. The Church of Satan didn't have a website, and the only way to actually communicate with others was either on message boards or on IRC chat, Internet Relay Chat. And so Luciferianism wasn't exactly something that everybody knew about. Reverend Stills charged me when he died. In his will, it didn't say to keep the organization alive. It said to propagate Luciferianism, to keep Luciferianism alive. And I think I did a damn good job of it over the years. Now everybody knows what Luciferianism is to a degree. That's where I think I did a bad job, is that when the Church of Lucifer dissolved and when we had members, they weren't wholly educated in the way that I have planned now. A lot of members thought that they had it figured out. I would tell them, no, you need to do this and this. Yeah, I've got it. And in a year, they thought they were like the Grand Magus of the Third Aeon of Darkness or something. After they were told otherwise, they would leave the Church of Lucifer. They were going to go form their own Luciferian organization, even though they didn't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Certain individuals like Mike Cardinal, rather than actually be... And if you know any Mikes in Luciferianism, you know who Mike Cardinal actually is nowadays. They wanted to blend a whole bunch of goofy crap together from other occult paths and pass it off as Luciferianism. And when we told them that they couldn't, he got pretty angry. He wrote this long 20 or 30 page book and sent it to us and was like, what do you think? I'm going to publish it. And it was so much tripe. It was, what if Wicca, Aleister Crowley, Buddhism, Luciferianism, and Satanism had a child? And we didn't agree with it. We sent it back to him, and he left very angrily. There were a lot of that. There was a lot of that in the Church of Lucifer. A lot of false ego and a lot of idiocy from people who wanted it to be what they wanted it to be instead of what it was. And so Luciferianism began to take shape as whatever the hell an individual wanted it to be, which it never was. Hey Drew, what's up, brother? And today I hope to rectify this grievous crap that people are passing off as Luciferianism today. I hope to bring true Luciferianism and the true light of Lucifer back to the people. We have it much more structured. The original Church of Lucifer was structured as well, but I was a kid at the time. I was 16, told, hey, this is a small familial, path. You're charged with making sure it doesn't just die out. We have, a dozen or so members in Philadelphia who know what the hell it is. Don't let it die. I was a 16-year-old kid. All I knew was, getting on the bulletin boards, getting on AOL, getting on IRC, things like that. I didn't know any better. I was a bit ignorant. And so I had open applications. The first tribunal, I'm going to admit something I don't think I've ever admitted to anyone before. The first tribunal of the Church of Lucifer I formed in 1996. Yes, exactly. They hijacked Luciferianism for greed and to build their own stature up. They were individuals who had no power in their lives. Well, now they're a Luciferian Grand Nagus of the darkest aeon. And, they're running their own Luciferian organization and writing books because anybody can do that nowadays. And I can write the book of Mi Pito de la Lumbre. And people be like, oh, his Pito de la Lumbre. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, anybody can write books nowadays. Any idiot can write a book. And, but yeah, it was all over greed. And, so I was a kid. I was somewhat naive, and I was anxious to preserve Luciferianism at any cost, because that's what I was charged with doing by somebody who I loved who died. And so, I brought the Church of Lucifer online. Hey Diane, what's up, sister? I had an open application. Members joined from all over the world, and I mean all over the world. And there were people with small covens, a few, dozen members here, 2 or 3 dozen members there, and we sort of took them all under our wing, under the Church of Lucifer banner. And one member from Germany, who was one of our first priests in the Church of Lucifer, Reverend Ashtroth de Infernum, he had a group of about 150 Germans, and all of them were anxious to join the Church of Lucifer, so his organization got fully absorbed, and I took him as a member of the Tribunal, the first Tribunal ever. And another individual, who was Deacon Paulo, which I've never announced this, but I don't think he minds now with it being so far out. Deacon Paulo was the mayor of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, at the time. And him and his boyfriend, it was very taboo to have a boyfriend at the time. We knew that he had a boyfriend, and we were great with it, And he brought his small group of individuals into the Church of Lucifer as well. And he was the other member of the Tribunal to begin that tradition. This was back in, like I said, 1996. And so we had a few hundred members, and this comes from me being left in charge of a coven and a familial tradition of about, I'd say, 15 to 20 members at most at the time. And so I really didn't know how to act. I really didn't know what to do. I was a babe in the woods, so to speak. I was an ignorant teenager. Thought I knew everything because, I was ordained. I was a learned occultist. I had reached the highest level possible in Luciferianism by the time I was 16. And so I thought I was hot shit, for lack of a better term. And when I brought the Church of Lucifer online, I made a lot of mistakes back then. So I absorbed a lot of members. And then in America, it seemed to just explode. It got to the point where we grew so fast that the FBI was following me My mom's on my timeline. She may even show up in this video. She may show up on this video, and I'll probably say, hi, Mom. But my mom will tell you that the FBI followed me everywhere I went for almost a year because of how fast the Church of Lucifer grew in America, and how we had outstretched hands all throughout Europe, all throughout South America, Asia, and the FBI was following me for almost a year. And my mom went outside one day. This was the middle of a really bad winter, and I mean we had like a foot of snow on the ground, and another foot coming, and then another foot the next day was supposed to be on the way. And she knocks on the FBI car that was pretty much inconspicuously sitting right outside of our house at the time. She knocked on the car window, and they unrolled the window, and they were all shocked, like, what the hell is this woman doing? And she was like, it's really cold out here, guys. If you want, I can make you some coffee or hot cocoa. And that's a story that my family still to this day thinks is, like, the funniest thing ever. But I will say I was the safest person in Philadelphia at that point, because anywhere I walked, anywhere I took a bus, I had chauffeurs. Not chauffeurs per se, but I had bodyguards that were constantly on my tail. After that year, though, they pretty much broke off. I guess they decided that following me around wasn't quite as spectacular as they had hoped, and they weren't getting anything out of it. So they no longer followed me around, and I was free to go back on do whatever. And the church grew, and it grew, and it grew faster and faster, and it just took a head of steam that was ridiculous. At its peak, we had 10,000 members in the Church of Lucifer. And this was ran between 3 individuals. Now, there's Facebook groups that are 5, 10, 15 times that size. They didn't have to teach 10,000 individuals. They didn't have to answer emails that were pretty much constant. They didn't have to deal with the chat rooms. They didn't have to deal with all of that. And after doing that from age 16 to almost age 30, I was burnt out. I won't say burnt out so much as that it was like I needed some time to just be me for a little bit, not be Reverend Frederick Nagash. And so I stepped down and just sat on the tribunal. I was no longer high priest of the Church of Lucifer. Excuse me, I have to get a drink here. And so I did that. I sat on the tribunal, and we made it to where there was no real high priest per se. And Luciferianism. Luciferianism, all of that's already been outlined in one of our public documents we released recently called What is Luciferianism? I shared it on my timeline. It's on the Church of Lucifer page on Facebook. Even the section on goals is right on Facebook. They're quite detailed, actually. And as for communities, we've always done tons for our communities. More so than most religious centers have done for communities. But yeah, so I was kind of a babe in the woods back then. And when I stepped down, for a little while it worked. For a little while everybody was doing things. And then one of the tribunal members at that time, because the tribunal had changed over the years, one of the members started going to college, didn't have any time. And Joshua and my ex-wife was running it, and she grew tired of it way fast. I was helping off and on, but it wasn't quite enough, I guess. And so I made the executive decision to call the tribunal to order to dissolve it, because after 6 or 7 months of unanswered emails and unanswered applications, there was really no rescuing it. There was no communication between us and the members, hardly. And so we dissolved it on a temporary basis. Now it's on a temporary basis, but then it was a pretty crushing blow to me personally. And over the years I formed small collectives that weren't actually organizations. I swore I would never join another organization again. I was done. And Patrick, actually knowing what he's talking about, being one of those rare individuals that knows what the hell he's talking about, was actually a full-on inspiration. And him saying, hey, would you consider bringing the Church of Lucifer back? It was like the synapses just fired in my head, full throttle. And I was like, let's do it. This is the time. You are the right person. Let's do this. Let's move forward with this. Let's bring Church of Lucifer into the new aeon. Let's do it. Let's move forward. And he was like, all systems are go. And we've been working on it since. And we're going to continue to work on it. We are working fast and hard. I didn't think I'd be able to write quite as much as I've been lately, and I am. So, hey Charles. And I've been firing off 8-page, 7-page, 6-page articles like nobody's business on a regular basis here. And we've been posting them on Facebook and the group to see responses, to answer questions on them. And it has been absolutely incredible. There's, I think it was 620 or 630 views and likes on what is Luciferianism, maybe more by now. On my Luciferian Goals article, there's been about 400 or 500, I think, or 600. And we just posted an article today that's also growing pretty fast. So it's really, really looking good. It's really, really moving forward. And we are really seeing good things happening. We're witnessing right now the phoenix-like ascension of the Church of Lucifer again, rising from the ashes of the past to sort of bring into the future what was the past. And I couldn't be happier, honestly. I know Patrick's pretty happy. I'm pretty damn happy myself. And I really am thankful for everybody that's been there since the day that we started, making it known we were bringing it back. I'm really, really thankful for all of you guys who were there, who left comments, who've messaged the Church of Lucifer. I can't thank you guys enough. Yous have been awesome. Yous have been motivational, like caffeine in a person half asleep. That's how motivational yous have been. So I can't thank you all enough. And I just wanted to make this little video to talk about it. Lots of respect to you too, Ben. You know that. Brother from another mother. And it's been phenomenal. It has been something that is, I mean, if I were to have dreamt of bringing the Church of Lucifer back, it would be going about this well. So this is pretty much living a dream for me right now, seeing the church coming back and seeing it doing so well. And I couldn't be happier right now. Another person that I really would like to thank in all of this, who's been really helpful, have been the Ordo Dracul. They've been really, really, really cool, really, really nice, really helpful, and very supportive. I'd also like to thank Stephen, who is on our video here tonight. He runs the Left Hand Path Philosophy page. If you're not on the Left Hand Path Philosophy page, you need to get on there, because it's literally a wealth of information from all paths on the Left Hand Path. You will, if you're someone who is interested in the Left Hand Path but don't know where you quite fit in, go to the Left Hand Path page, the Left Hand Path Philosophy page. You will find what you're looking for. I guarantee it. After 30 years, 30 years in the Left Hand Path, I still read through things on the Left Hand Path Philosophy page, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That's really smart. So, thanks, Charles. I'm really excited, too. I'm in Philadelphia. I'm not exactly in Pittsburgh, but most definitely, PA is bringing it back on the map, my friend. Most definitely. And the other thing that's really awesome about the bringing back the Church of Lucifer this time is that it's not all Americans on the Tribunal. The original Tribunal had people that was me, myself, here in Pennsylvania in America, but it also had Ashtroth in Germany. It also had Deacon Paulo that was in Brazil. And I really like the idea of not having anything localized when it's an international organization. And the great thing about this is Patrick is in the beautiful country of Malta, a country that literally is one of the birthplaces of the left-hand path. So this is absolutely astronomical for me to have it going so well. Oh yeah, definitely just getting warmed up, Benjamin. Most definitely. This is definitely one of the best times to be alive. Oh, no problem, Stephen. If it wasn't for the Left-Hand Path philosophy page, I would have lost all hope in the Left-Hand Path a long time ago. So thank you for keeping that alive within me, for keeping the black flame alive. It's like, for me, it has been a roller coaster, okay? I've watched the Left-Hand Path take so many twists and turns over 30 years. After 30 years, you start to get tired of the, hey, you make me rich overnight and I'll join you. It's like, no. Just, no. It just gets tiresome. These people, exactly. Stephen's from Malta too. That's right. It's the birthplace of the left-hand path. Cagliostro was initiated in Malta. And it is the birthplace of the left-hand path. Anybody who knows anything about, the actual deep history of the left-hand path knows that Malta is one of the epicenters of the left-hand path. So I am really, really excited to see, us having the outstretched hand in the Church of Lucifer in Malta and America. That's something that I am very, very, very happy about. Because after having, 3 people that were international, the Church of Lucifer then kind of went in a, I guess, you had to know the person before you can really bring them into the tribunal. And when I mean know the person, you had to know them personally. And at the time it was me and my wife, and then we brought another in who came to Philadelphia for full initiation and all of that stuff, and he became the other member of the tribunal. And so it was all American. The 3 members of the tribunal were American, and it always felt a little dirty. I don't know how else to put it, but it always felt a little dirty that it was all American, even though it was an international organization. And the original tribunal was a very international tribunal, so I'm very glad that we're back to being an international tribunal and an international organization, too. So, what are you talking about, Richard? You're silly. Anyway, but yeah, I am very excited about bringing the Church of Lucifer back, and I can safely say that there's, like the individuals that I mentioned here tonight, they are pretty much the great inspiration that helped to do this. They really helped to initiate my own black flame back into burning for doing this. I no longer have the absolute disdain that I did for groups and organizations, mostly because of seeing the Ordo Dracul, for learning about the Ordo Dracul. And, yeah, I'm tired of those people too, Charles. They want immediate results. They're a part of this modern society of instant gratification, the self-entitled instant gratification plebeians, who literally are like, well, if you can't make me rich, I'm not joining you. We don't need you. Why do we want you if we have to help you do everything? You're not my child. I shouldn't have to coddle you. I can teach you how to do it yourself. And if you put the work in, you can manifest it. But I'm not your father, so I'm not going to exactly give you keys to my car and tell you to go out on Sunday night and take your date out. Here's $50. And so, yeah, it's dealing with that over the years is very, very tiring. That and dealing with the whole constant barrage of Christians. The Church of Lucifer, the site isn't up. We don't have a website yet. We have a Facebook page. We've already got people, you need to find Jesus. You need to find Allah. It's like, okay, according to these people, we need to find Jesus and Allah. So I need 10 wives and 6 altar boys, stat. But yeah, it's like, it's ridiculous. We get the constant barrage of people that are preachers and, they're all holier than thou and all this crap. And then you look on their pages and it's like Big Booty Bitches is one of the Facebook groups that they're a part of. It's like, grow up, you swine. Subhuman, bottom-feeding, plebeian, cretinous mud animals. I really grow tired of that. I really grow tired of the self-righteous indignation and the false piety that's pervasive in the right-hand path. That's why when I talk to most people in the right-hand path, 90% of the time, they're either really cool and down-to-earth Christians or they're pagan and Wiccan, and that's about it. It's gotten to the point where it hasn't changed in 30 years. I remember being 16 years old and getting probably 1,000 death threats from people like, you don't accept the Lord and Christ Jesus into your heart who loves you with all of his heart, I'm going to shoot you. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Excuse my language. But it's like, I don't think you understand quite what loving everyone is. I don't think you understand what love is. And so yeah, being 16 and getting threats, it got to the point where I literally put my physical home address on the internet. And that became quite the stir in the left-hand path. Everybody was like, he's fucking crazy. And it was like, no, but if they're going to make a threat, let them come. At that point, I was already 6'2" and 250 pounds. I also had decades of martial arts already at that point. Let them come. I'll pick them up and dump them on their neck and walk home happy. Hell, I might skip. But yeah, they couldn't just forgive me. Exactly, Richard. Nobody can forgive me. Meanwhile, right now, I can tell you I have a friend that I've had since I was 16 or 17 years old who used to be on the left-hand path, who's now a Christian preacher, a pastor. And me and him have whole conversations for hours and hours, completely respectful. That dude is like another brother to me. I've known him forever. I'm 40 now, so from 16 to 40, me and him have been friends, and I've watched him go through transformations. He's watched me go through many different transformations, and he's a Christian pastor, and I have no problem with that, and he has no problem with me still being on the left-hand path. It's a mutual friendship and it's mutual respect. But there's a whole lot more crazy-ass zealots and evangelicals out there than there are the normal, let me tell you. Let me tell you. I'm sure Steven could tell you some horror stories of shit that he's gotten from the page he runs. It's got 68,000 members on the Left-Hand Path Philosophy page. So I'm pretty sure he gets his fair share of hate. And, yeah. Yeah, they're busy there making death threats. You were raised Presbyterian. I was raised a little bit of everything. It was Catholic, it was Methodist, Presbyterian, then it was Baptist. So yeah, I was the gamut before. I kind of, at 10 years old, decided I'm going to read the Bible. I never read it myself. I always let these people at church read it to me. I'm going to read the Bible. I read the Bible and I'm no longer a Christian at that point, at 10 years old. I was like, did you read this shit? My mom, oh, Jesus loves you, you know. It's like, yeah, it says Jesus loves me, but God's a prick. And so, it got down to the point where, when I read all of the hatred for gay people, the methods to take care of your slaves, to sell your daughter to her rapist, all of the racism that's kind of hidden in there, that's somewhat latent, like where the Lord kills 60,000 Ethiopians for not looking at the Lord. I believe that was in Deuteronomy. When it comes to all of that, I just couldn't get behind it. I'm too much of an accepting individual. I just couldn't get behind all the hatred that's actually espoused in it. And I was like, I'm not a Christian anymore. My mom is a bit of a hippie. She was a hippie in the 60s and 70s. So when I told my mom, yeah, I'm not really a Christian anymore, she was like, okay, kids should believe in something though, so find something you believe in. And so I started reading other things. I read the Septuagint. I read the Torah, the Tanakh, the Talmud, the Quran, the Tao Te Ching, the I Ching. I read books on Buddhism, and it was like none of those really fit. And yeah, exactly. The Old and New Testament seem like two books that hate each other. Exactly, Richard. And yeah, Charles, there's so much hate in the religion that it's despicable. And that's why I'm not a Christian today, because I don't have that much hate in me. I pretty much get along with almost everybody, unless they start preaching and being an ass to me. I pretty much get along with everybody. Yeah, exactly, Charles, exactly. It's like, I didn't find myself on the right-hand path at all. One of my friends was like, hey, you need to go to this bulletin board. There's a copy of the Satanic Bible on there. And I was like, Satanic Bible? I am not into devil-worshipping shit. And he's like, oh, dude, you got to check it out. It's not that, it's not that. Finally, I read it, and I was like, it makes sense. And I went out and I brought a copy of the Satanic Bible. And, oh yeah, my mom was cool. My mom was very cool. Yeah, South Philly, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at and where I'm from. And, I'm right by the waterfront on, Pennsport section in South Philadelphia. And but yeah, so I got the Satanic Bible and I was like, this is brilliant, this is great shit, And my mom was like, well, if you're gonna say that you believe in this, I want to read it. And my mom read it and she was like, oh, I can't say I disagree with most of what he says. And so my mom was cool with it. I got the Satanic Rituals. I got the Hell's Kitchen Baphomet at the time that was like this freaking big. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is it. This is it. I'm a Satanist. And then I met Reverend Stills like a year or two later. I had met most of the people that are higher-ups now in the Church of Satan, actually. Peter Gilmore, Peggy Nadramia, Blanche Barton. And with the Church of Lucifer online, after all of that, I had actually met, talked with, should I say. Not actually met, but I've talked with. For almost 2 years, I got to talk with Dr. Aquino, Michael Aquino, who at the time was still the episcopus of the Temple of Set. And he was a hell of a nice guy. He was awesome. And for 2 years, I would say once or twice a week we would message back and forth. But if it wasn't for the chance meeting of Reverend Stills on South Street in Philadelphia, yeah, the death threats are the easy ones. It's those Illuminati spammers. Hey, just send me your information. We're the Illuminati and we know everything and we can make you a millionaire. Just send me your information. Well, if you know everything, you know who I am and where I'm from. Sure, I'm interested. Just get my information. Yeah, exactly, Richard. In a way, there are a lot of similarities. But yeah, it was a chance meeting on South Street at a coffee shop down by, I believe it was 2nd or 3rd and South Street. And we're sitting there. He's sitting there drinking coffee, and he sees me walking around, and I swear, the Baphomet from Hell's Kitchen was like a friggin' Flava Flav clock around my neck at the time. It was huge. And he's like, hey, kid, come here. I didn't know. I didn't give a shit. I was just like, what? What do you want? And he's like, you know what that Baphomet is? I was like, yeah, Church of Satan. He's like, actually, the Church of Satan got it from an earlier source, but LaVey changed it a little bit. He took the word Samael and Lucifer out and, a few other aspects, things like that. And he was like, are you actually active in the Church of Satan? And I was like, well, they let me be a member because my mom signed and, that's about it. And I've met most of the people. I met, Peggy Nadramia, Peter Gilmore, Blanche Barton. I've, personally met these people. And Stills was like, if you're not an actual physical part of it, if you want to talk about Luciferianism, what the fuck is Luciferianism? all I knew was Satanism when it came to the left-hand path. LaVeyan Satanism. I didn't know anything else existed. And that pretty much started everything to where I'm at today. And so yeah, I owe a lot to a lot of people in the left-hand path. Today I owe a lot to, like I said, Patrick, Stephen, William Allen LaVey, Andreas Bathory from the Ordo Dracul. I owe a lot to these people today, but in the past I owe a lot to other figures who I met who were really, really positive in my life. I owe a lot to LaVey for getting me started on the left-hand path, should I say, in the Satanic Bible. So I do owe that to LaVey. Uncle Anton, so to speak. I owe a lot to my mentor, of course, Reverend Robert Stills. I owe a lot to Peter Gilmore as well. He was another person that when he met me, he was like, "You're awful young to be a Satanist. What do you know about Satanism?" At the time, I had the 11 Satanic Statements memorized, the 9 Satanic, everything I had memorized from the Satanic Bible. I was pretty much a fanatic. I was a zealot for Satan at that point. And Peter Gilmore was like, "Damn, kid, you know what you're talking about, okay." And so I owe a lot to him because he reassured me that I wasn't a complete idiot. And so I owe some to him too. I owe a lot to Michael Aquino for showing me that even when you run an organization, a large organization, you should still be humble enough to converse with people, to still have, common ground with other human beings. And he helped show me that. I've learned those lessons later on after talking to him. I've learned them, I'd say, probably in the last 15 to 20 years, but I learned them, and that I owe a lot to him for. I also actually owe a whole lot to some of the chaos magicians who over the years have been awesome too. Peter Carroll, Phil Hine. There's also another author, I always forget his name, but he wrote a book called The Masterworks of Chaos Magic, and it was just a brilliant book. Okay, it took everything from Hine and Carroll and sort of condensed it into this quick and easy read to where my girlfriend, who really wasn't an occultist all that much at the time, read it and was like, "I understand it, cool, this is it." And she explained it to me, and it was like, "You get chaos magic, brilliant." And so I owe a lot to the chaos out there who did that stuff. Yeah, definitely, Aleister Crowley. I definitely owe a lot to Aleister Crowley. His works, the way I like to put it is, his works were genius for a madman. He was a bit crazy, but his works were utter genius. Everything that he wrote was pure genius. And where in the hell would we be today in the Western occult tradition without Aleister Crowley? Even Anton LaVey gave Aleister Crowley so much respect. And he didn't really respect very many people. So, but yeah, Aleister Crowley is definitely a big influence too, and has helped mold me. Especially Liber Alva Legis. That is, I've read that thing so many times that, oh my God. I had the original little red book of it. It was maybe about that big, and the pages were falling out. I read it so much. And, yeah, exactly. And I read Liber Alva Legis, that little red book, so many freaking times that the pages were falling out. And over the years, I kind of lost that copy. And a couple years back, I was like, "Hey, Sam, I need a new copy. I need to read it again. I only read it about 15 times or so. I need a new copy. I need to start reading it again." And I got the hardbound edition of it. The great thing is there's another great author. Yeah, the Book of Lies is brilliant book. So were the Equinox. All of the Equinoxes were brilliant books. Another great author who had a lot to do with melding me into who I am, that I owe a lot to for inspiration, is Don Webb, who also wrote a book with Michael Aquino on the Book of the Law. It's a brilliant treatise on what the Book of the Law is, how it breaks down, what it means. Really, 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 really good book. especially since the Laws for All is been out of print for so long, and the Laws for All is, one of those books you're going to pay a pretty penny for. Put it to you this way, it's basically going to be the equivalent of buying any Kenneth Grant book. That's how expensive it is. And, but yeah, I owe a lot to a lot of different occultists who really were inspirations over the years. And my one biggest inspiration has always been, and some of you may laugh, Vlad Tepes III, Vlad Dracul. He's been one of my biggest inspirations in life. And before people say, oh, he killed people, he did all this, he did what he had to for his people, which is something I can highly respect. If anybody did something to my family, I would probably do worse to them than Vlad ever did. It's called love. And it's called love for people. And sometimes the world needs a hero, and sometimes the world needs a monster. And Vlad realized he could be a hero, die, and his people be enslaved, and half of them be forced to follow Radu, his brother, or he can become a monster and terrify his enemies. And he became a monster and terrified his enemies to protect his people. And to me, that's the most beautiful love he could have had, because he gave up parts of his humanity to do that. And that's just absolutely beautiful. I would do just the same if anything were to come between me and my kids, or me and Sam. I would be the same exact way. I can't say I wouldn't. I'd probably do worse than what the history books have written. And a lot of it that was written about some of the horrible things Dracul did were the Germans, who at the time really didn't like Vlad to begin with. So a lot of it was partially demonization of his character. But he's been one of my great heroes, because he showed what love is. Love is doing whatever you have to do to preserve it. Love is doing whatever need be to make sure that those you love are protected and cared for. And that pretty much summarizes everything in my life. I haven't had any problems with people doing horrible things in any of the worst areas that I lived in to my family. And that's partially due to people seeing how big I am, people seeing how mean I look. Most of the time I don't look like a goofball. Most of the time when I'm out on the street, I'm very focused. I don't have a persona that's like, hey, come on, let's hang out and, be buddies. I really don't, because when I'm in public, I'm trying to get from point A to point B and to get back to point A in one piece, and to make sure that whatever I'm there to do gets done. And that's it. If I meet somebody cool along the way, awesome. They weren't terrified of me, that's great. But most of the time I put on an air that I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to be messed with. And that's a protection thing, because I've lived in some really bad places in my life. And you either walked hard or you walked to the hospital. And so that's pretty much one of the reasons, like I was saying, why I respect and admire, and always have respected and admired Vlad Tepes for probably most of my life. I think so, Benjamin. We would definitely kick ass, brother. And so yeah, that's my video for tonight. I hope everybody understands a bit why I did this, what has changed in my perception. I am somebody who's always got an open mind. I am someone who is always open to having his perception altered. And with my perception being altered by new information and new evidence and new things that come forth, it also changes my reality. And I find being a paradigm shifter to be an absolutely positive thing. So I'm glad that this happened. I'm very, very glad that this has happened. I'm very glad to see everything happening in the way that it's happening. Oh, no problem, everybody. Oh, I have some friends in Portugal, actually, Amelia. Awesome. No problem, Valentia. I'm definitely working 100% towards seeing the church getting up and running soon, and towards getting all the information that the public will need to know before, filling out an application and joining. Will need to know. I want to get everything that I can into people's hands ASAP. And Patrick's working 10 times harder than anybody's ever in the Church of Lucifer Tribunal. So I am infinitely proud to call him my brother in this. Awesome, Steven. Sorry to keep you up so late, man. I know it's late in Malta. 5 a.m. Holy crap. My kids will have me up by 6 or 7 in the morning tomorrow. So I know what that's like. No problem, Benjamin. If you ever need to ask any questions or anything, I've never had a question that I couldn't answer when it comes to Luciferianism. When it's come to the left-hand path, if it's something I haven't studied, I'll let you know. Don't worry. Like voodoo, juju, hoodoo, all that stuff. I've never studied that. Can't answer anything on it. But otherwise, if you have any questions, anybody, just message me anytime, night or day. If I'm asleep, which I do sleep for a little bit at night, I'll wake up and answer ASAP. Facebook had a little issue there for a minute. But otherwise, I would like to wish everybody a great night. Ave Luciferi Excelsi, and I will see you all soon. Thanks for being here tonight. Love yous.